So we got two options here.
Yeah.
Both Perdomo. Actually, we've got 8 options here.
I like a medium.
A medium?
I like a medium.
So sun-growns are technically usually medium.
Great.
Okay.
Now Connecticut's are light, right?
They're typically lighter.
I'll do a light one.
Now the exception here, this is really, really mellow. Okay. It like sweet mellow. Here you got everything from mellow to like pretty spicy.
Don't like spicy.
Don't like spicy.
I like sweet.
I would go with that then.
I'll do that one.
When I'm giving new guys or people who've smoked like some bad cigars things, this is the one I usually give. I'm like, here, try this. This will make you like cigars.
This will make you like cigars, yeah.
All right, perfect. Welcome to Contentious Talks, the weekly podcast where we talk to influencers, celebrities, politicians, and everyday people to show we all have unique perspectives, and that's a great thing. I'm your host, Ryan Malinoski, and this week we're talking to Jeff Chandler. Is it Chandler or Chadler?
Chandler.
Chandler.
You got it right, man.
All right. How you doing today, Jeff?
Doing good.
Good, man.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. It's your show, so I thought, hey, probably going to have Ryan on there.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
What would the show be without you? It would be my show, I guess.
Be your show.
It would be my show.
And then you'd be having me on it.
I would.
So tell me a bit about yourself, Jeff.
Oh, gosh. Well, Georgia native.
Okay.
Lived most of my life in Georgia, right here in the Atlanta area. And I love it. Atlanta's home. Always loved it. I'm a musician. Been a musician most of my life since I was 16. Producer, songwriter. I had 2 record deals, toured for about 7 years with a band, and my brother's included in that band. And lived here, Nashville, and Los Angeles, pretty much. Got a wife, 6 kids. I am a business owner, entrepreneur, minister, and musician. Yeah, producer, songwriter.
So you've had a pretty wild career then, huh?
I've had a great career, man. It's wonderful, and there's never a dull moment.
That's awesome.
Never a dull moment, man. And
always able to do something, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
So who have you toured with? Who have you done music with?
Oh, I've done shows with, I was never famous.
Okay.
So nobody would ever recognize me. But
that could be the name of this podcast.
I was never famous.
I was never famous.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I was never famous. But I've actually played with a ton of famous people. It's been fun.
Okay.
Newsboys, I was on tour with them. Toby Mac.
Cool.
All Christian acts.
Right.
Toby Mac, Jeremy Camp. I did a little bit of writing for a band out of Atlanta called Casting Crowns, one of my favorite Christian bands.
Okay.
And some of the best people you'll ever meet.
Awesome.
Fabulous people. Amazing songwriters and performers and singers. Yeah, some of the best in the world, actually.
Right.
So, done some stuff with them.
Obviously, you know, growing up a bit, like those bands are definitely bands that I listen to. You know, the type of background I have and where I've been and whatnot. So that's awesome. It's very cool. Right on. You still produce music?
I do. Still produce music. I own a non-profit record label now, which is called Emerge. You guys can go check it out if you don't mind me doing a little plug, and I'll tell why. It's emergeonline.net. Emergeonline.net. And it's kind of a special music group because what we do is we go around and we put on shows and we raise money and awareness for drug and alcohol abuse and addiction.
Okay.
And so we have a foundation connected to that record label, and we pay for people to go through rehab. So there's 40 million addicts in the United States on the books, and most of them can't afford to go to rehab.
Wow.
We saw that as a massive issue. I've been in ministry since I was a kid, mostly church work, but then my wife and I started this ministry 3 years ago. And we were like, man, where's some problems that we can kind of be an answer to? And that was one of them. We saw a lot of people on the streets. We've done a lot of street ministry. Found a lot of people on the streets that were on the streets because they were addicted, and they couldn't get off, and they couldn't afford to pay for the healing that they needed.
Wow.
So, we've been able to help a small amount of people, but as we grow, we'll be able to help more. So we're trying to get 10,000 people in the next 12 months to do $10 a month on our website, emergeonline.net, so that we can pay for about 10 to 15 people a month to go through rehab. Rehab can be upwards of 20,000 all the way up to 50,000. Some of them, depending on a short term, could be like 6 to 10.
Okay.
But there's all kinds of ranges, and we just want to be able to help everybody. Depending on the drug of choice they might need, it might be more expensive because they need major medical care.
Right.
So, yeah, we love to make music and help people. I also own a roofing company.
Okay.
It's called Valor Roofing.
Okay.
ValorRoofing.net, and then I'm a partner in a firm of Pinpoint Adjusters, pinpointadjusters.com.
Okay.
So we adjust insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's a synopsis.
That's pretty cool.
I got a wife and 6 kids. Wife and 6 kids,
that's
and that's why I do all of this. Is because I have a wife and 6 kids.
Right on. Right on. How old are your kids?
Oldest is 25. So we got a 25-year-old, a 20-year-old. Correction. He just turned 20.
Cool.
17-year-old, 13-year-old, 15-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's quite the range. Cool. So is the drug and rehab ministry, is that the only ministry you do at the moment?
No, I also lead worship at Free Chapel.
Okay. Okay.
Those 2 things.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
What type of people, are you interacting with when you're finding that they need this help? They need the rehab and they've been in that tough situation. Where do you get, for lack of a better term, like how do you find?
Where do we find them?
Yeah.
A lot of times we find them on the streets because we do a lot of street ministry, and so we find a lot of them on the streets. We find a ton of them through referrals.
Okay.
Just going to churches, because we go to different churches and tour around and tell people what we do. And so people call our hotline all the time.
Okay.
It's on our website. If you know somebody that needs help, emergeonline.net, just have them call us. We have a team of counselors. Every last one of them is a former recovered drug or alcohol addict.
Okay.
So we have a team of coaches, counselors. They're not all licensed counselors. We have one licensed counselor and then a bunch of coaches, basically, who have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and they can help with, we have a lot of different drugs of choice listed, but addiction overall can be handled with our team.
Awesome.
We provide a lot of emotional support, a lot of coaching and accountability, and then we also help them get into rehabs.
Okay.
So yeah, we connect. We had a guy from South Carolina call us. The guy was a Hell's Angel.
Okay.
And he's one of the guys on our website. And he called us, and his testimony's on our website. Dude, it's a pretty cool story. He tried to commit suicide 3 times.
Wow.
He's got 2 young boys, and he called me. And actually, he emailed me through our website. I called him.
Okay.
And he said, dude, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live this way. I can't live this way anymore. I've been like this for years.
Gotcha.
And I just need help. So we relocated him to Atlanta. We put him in a rehab. And he wanted to leave rehab almost immediately. He was there like a couple weeks. He didn't think it was going to last a week or 2, but he was there 9 months, and he graduated. And now he's back on his feet again. He's got a great job. And when I say great job, he's an adjuster.
Okay.
Also, and he's got a great job. He's making a lot of money to be able to provide for his family. He's back with his boys, sober.
That's great.
Almost 2 years now.
That's great.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of really cool stories that it's an honor to be able to be a part of that.
Right on.
Honestly, it's real humbling to get to be a part of that and to serve people on that level. We work with the homeless, and there's a lot of I don't know, like we're trying to kind of rethink that whole approach.
Yeah.
Like when we're helping the homeless, like I have a partner downtown named Pastor William, and the guy is an absolute genius, and he's a saint. And we do collaborative stuff with him downtown. He's got a ministry called The Hub.
Okay.
And so we work with The Hub, and we want to raise more money so we can support The Hub more in a lot of their efforts. And with human capital, by taking our volunteers, we've got about 80 partners. in the area, and also with financially, as our foundation grows, we can help them financially. But I love his mind because he and I talked a lot about kind of renovating the approach to helping the homeless, because you don't want to get into funding poverty. You can get into funding poverty. You can take food to the homeless, and that's great, but it doesn't really help them. They eat for a minute, but then it's like, how are you helping them? There's a lot of them that are down there because they're mentally ill. So, we've got two medical doctors, and 4 nurse practitioners that we work with to kind of assess the people and find out, are they mentally healthy? Are they addicted? Why are they homeless? There was one doctor who lost his whole family in a car accident and just went nuts. He just went into this deep depression and kind of lost his mind, lost his way. The dude's he's a brain surgeon. You meet him on the streets and he tells you a story and you're just like, oh my God, you just need some help. You're a brilliant person and you weren't here before. You were here. Now you just need an opportunity to get back there.
Right.
So that's the kind of support that we provide. And we provide meals. He does this thing called Feed the 5,000. He does 5,000 meals a month to the homeless. And this isn't, if you go to a homeless person and you give them a hot dog and a bag of chips, well, now they're homeless and they have diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like you have diabetes, and if they're not eating healthy, so he takes some chicken and rice and green beans and stuff like that. So he's doing hot meals. And there's a partner that we work with that owns a catering company. And so he's the guy that's making all this food and bringing it to the streets. And then, we find out each individual, what their story is, what their needs are, and how can we help get them to where they want to go.
Sure. So, with that, obviously the brain surgeon may need, a roof over his head for a year or something like that, and some coping mechanisms and some training on that side of things, to better process through the trauma that he went through.
Correct.
But for someone who's got mental incapacities and stuff like that, who are homeless because society doesn't have a place for them, obviously to me the solution, in my mind, the solution for the brain surgeon is not easy. I don't want to make light of it, but it's a little simpler than what can we do for the people who are in the situation and don't understand reality the way that it is.
Correct. Well, and some of them, they just need the right medication.
Okay.
And so we get them the medication they need. We pay for that.
Okay.
We get them assessed. We get them the medication they need, and then we pay for their ongoing medication. We'll pay for their medication for as long as they need it. Point in case, I met this guy named Justin. He's on our website too. He's our one of our newest grads. So we met him while we were working with the hub, and we found him in a hospital. Hospital wanted to throw him back out. He had an infection in his arm called MRSA.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar.
Yep, he got that from shooting heroin with a dirty needle. Got MRSA in his arm. So got that taken care of. Got his antibiotics. Well, he was bipolar too. So he's on the street because he's bipolar and he's got his health issues. So we got him well, paid for his meds, got him through rehab, found him a job, and now he's got his own apartment. He's on medication. He's got the right medication. He got the right attention, and he got his life back.
Yeah.
So, it's not, you can't, our process is slow, but dude, it's effective. You know what I mean? Because it's and that's why we're growing. We want to grow slow. We want to grow correctly so that we can rehabilitate people and not have the one size fits all kind of approach of, hey, we went out and gave out some donuts and coffee and we feel good about ourselves. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's not.
Sure.
Is there a place for that? Absolutely, but it's not our place.
Right.
Our place is, we want to try to pick these people up, help them get their lives back.
Yeah, for the long term.
That's right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. How did this come up in your and your wife's life?
So my father-in-law is, he's a minister. He lives in Conyers. He's a biker.
Okay.
He ran drugs. He was a drug dealer and he was a drug addict for years and years and years. And so when we got married, I just connected with him, going around and doing ministry 20 years ago. I started doing this with him in the rehabs. He does prison. He goes and speaks in prisons and drug and alcohol rehabs. So that's how I got started doing it. That's also how I got started doing construction.
Okay.
Ed Babcock. He's been one of the great mentors and heroes of my life. Just a great guy. Great guy. He taught me everything that I know about construction and a lot of what I know about addiction ministry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back here and talk about your time as a singer, songwriter, producer, that type of thing. How'd you get into that? Where did that start?
I got started with that when I was 16. I wanted to play baseball for the Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
I grew up with it. It's kind of my childhood dream.
Everybody has a dream.
Everybody has a dream, yeah, when they're a kid. And I was a very mediocre baseball player. I practiced probably 12 hours a day as a kid.
Wow.
And was just still pretty bad. I mean, I was okay in high school. I was fast. Had a pretty high batting average. I couldn't hit a home run to save my life. And I pitched super slow, so definitely not. Athletics was not my thing. But I started singing when I was 16 years old. I started singing a Christmas play. So, well, actually, I was acting because I've always kind of been a ham.
Okay.
And just enjoy being on stage, and whether it's speaking or acting or whatever. And my pastor at the time told me, he said, "Hey, there's a singing part in this. You got to sing a song. Is that okay?" And I was like, "I don't know. I've never sang before." I was like, "How hard can it be?" "Sure, I'll do it." 16, I didn't know any better. So I got up and sang at the Christmas play, and I sounded terrible. I mean, I got to look back on the video now, and I'm just like, I sounded like, I don't know, like Richard Marx with a cold or something. I sounded really nasal. I don't like Richard Marx. He's great. But I sounded like a bad Richard Marx. So it wasn't good or pleasing. But I don't know, something happened, and people just loved it when I sang. Because I've always just been a passionate person, and I guess that passion translated. I have a close relationship with God. I've always, tried to, I grew up as a Christian, and so I've always tried to do the right thing. I've always tried to live my life according to the Word. That doesn't always work out. A lot of times it doesn't, but that's what grace is for.
Right.
So I don't know. I've always been passionate about God and passionate about people. And so that came across, and everybody freaked out. So then I started singing in youth group, and then I had churches started inviting me to sing. And then, I started getting the little audio tapes. And back in the 80s, in the 90s, early 90s, audio tapes were a thing.
Right.
And I had what I call my band in a box. I had like all my audio tapes like lined up in this box, and I'd give a bunch of them to the sound guy, and I'd started touring churches.
Okay.
And out of that, my brothers are actually really talented musicians, and I was not at the time. I was a good singer, a good performer, but I wasn't a good musician per se. And they were kind of like, Big Brother, he's a dork, singing like all this cheesy CCM stuff that they hated. They were into rock and like alternative music, and kind of the grunge era, like Nirvana and all that.
Right.
It's kind of like grunge, like Seattle era, when we started kind of making music together, probably late 80s, early 90s. They came to me and they were like, hey, they were really good players. They're like, let's start writing some music together. They started writing. They're great poets. They're both great songwriters. And so we started writing together. And then we decided to get a band together and go on tour. And so we did. We just started touring and got a record deal with a subsidiary at EMI in Nashville. Probably went before about 15, 20 different record labels, showcased, and finally got signed.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then started touring.
What was the name of your band back then?
Oh, man, you would ask me that, wouldn't you?
I would.
Just because you're mean-spirited. We were called Halo. What a terrible name. Halo, like the element, because Halo was like, it was part of salt, okay? So Halo was like an element in the, I don't know, my brother came up, he's really smart, I'm not. He was like, let's be called Halo because it's part of the chemical makeup of salt.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were called Halo with a dash for that. we toured under that name for a while until we got some calls from a rock band, like a heavy, almost like a heavy metal band.
Okay.
Who were called Halo, and their management was like, sent us a cease and desist letter. So we were like, okay, well. So then we were like, we wanted to stick with the Salt theme, so we came up with a name, which is really bad, called Hollis, which was just a horrible idea for a name. So we were under Hollis for a hot minute, and after that, we just stuck with our own name, Chandler.
Okay.
We just started being called Chandler. And then we stuck with that for a while. And toured with that name for about a good 6 years. I came off the road. Touring got to be hard for the family. Obviously, when you're touring, it's and you're not home. And I think we had 3 kids at the time. We had 3 kids at the time that we were. There we go. There we go. We had 3 kids at the time when we were touring. And so my wife finally had a conversation with me. She was like, hey, it would be great if you could come home. Because touring's not really working out with the family. You take a bunch of kids, 3 or 4 kids on the road. Feels like a vacation for about 2 days. And when you're on a 2-week tour, it starts feeling like work real fast.
Sure.
So, yeah, it wasn't a great fit for our family at the time, having a young family.
Okay.
So I came off the road, started doing ministry and producing and songwriting.
Cool.
And I've been doing that ever since. Now I do have a country band now. I'm writing a worship record, and I also have a country rock band. But we go play alcohol festivals.
Okay.
Set up our tent. Like, cities ask us, they're like, if you're a rehab, why do you want to come to alcohol festivals? And I'm like, well, people like good music, and so we like to play music. And we also like to connect with people, and inevitably, a lot of people are going to be there just having fun, but there's going to be a lot of people there who are there because they can't live without it, and who are in trouble. And so we want to be able to connect with those people while we're, playing country music at an alcohol festival. So far, so good, man. I've been able to connect with hundreds of folks.
So you toured and played with some pretty big bands. Wrote some songs for some pretty big bands, at least in the Christian realm of things.
Yes, sir.
How did you get to that point? So that's a pretty big deal for a lot of people. That's a lot of people's dream.
Well, it was just, you believe in fate, I believe in God, or whatever. I believe that God really opened some doors for me to be able to do that. I met some great people. I had good management who put me in touch with a lot of great bands. I got to tour with a lot of great bands and meet them personally. So just through those connections, I was able to do some songwriting. And I guess the one that got the most play and the most exposure was a song I wrote called I Know You're There.
Okay, sure.
Casting Crowns put that on their record, which gave it just a life of its own, honestly. Like, me just being a Georgia boy and a family man here, nobody would have ever heard that song.
Right.
And the fact that they have a worldwide platform, they took it all over the globe, dude. And that was just one of the biggest honors, and it was a lot of fun to watch that kind of take off.
Cool. So you had 3 kids, you got off the road, came back home full-time to Georgia. I assume this was probably your home base, is that correct?
It is, yep.
Okay.
Most of the family's here. My in-laws, my wife's dad and stepmom are in Texas, out in Austin, Texas. We go visit them when we can too. So, but most of the family's around here. That's why we moved back from LA. One of the big reasons we moved back from LA was because we were like, this is a cool place and it's fun, but all the family's back east. So, and my wife's an only child, so we had the only grandbabies.
Okay.
So we moved back here. I still go to LA sometimes to visit and produce and,
right.
just hang out with my friends, songwrite and all that good stuff out there. So it's fun hang.
So when you got off a tour, did you go right into the home improvement industry?
No, yes and no. Like, I've had my company for 4 years now, but I've always done construction.
Okay.
My father-in-law got me started in that about 20 years ago. And I've done it ever since. So I started my own company 4 years ago, but I've always kind of done it on the side. But I did full-time church ministry, for 12 years after I came off the road.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I pastored full-time up until a couple of years ago, maybe almost 4 years ago. When we left our last church, we just felt like God was telling us to step out and start a new chapter of life.
Gotcha.
So that's when we started Emerge.
Okay.
And started our own ministry and started our own company.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Things have just been going great since.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say great all the time,
right.
But, great in the sense that, no matter what life throws your way, you can always find something to be grateful for. My wife and kids they always give me something to be grateful for. They're the biggest blessing I've ever had, I've ever imagined. I'm more blessed than I ever imagined I possibly could be on that front. Very rich in love. And now, 4 years later with the ministry and the business, things are going better. They're going better than they ever have. So I would say, yeah, every year gets better.
Do you have something to say? Then consider being on the show. Go to contentioustalks.com/guest and apply today. That's contentioustalks.com/guest to apply. Now back to the show. We're going to roll right into the part of the podcast that is consistent and the same every single time. It's called the Tough 12. I imagine that it's everyone's favorite part.
Sounds fun to me.
So there's 3 rounds in the Tough 12. There's 4 questions in each round. It really is the heart of the podcast. So first round's on politics, Jeff.
Okay.
What, in your own words, in your own opinion, would you define as a fair society?
Wow, a fair society. Well, I always tell my children that life's not fair. So, I don't know. I guess a fair society, I think everybody needs to be free. I think everybody needs to be free to be them. Okay? And in the world I grew up in, I feel like there was a lot more of that. And that is such a vast question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel that people need to be free and they need to know that they're okay. That it's okay to be them. Because I think social media exacerbates the fact that it's not okay to be you. Mm. If you don't have a 6-pack abs and if you don't look like a Barbie or whatever, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's it's not okay. We have more pressure. Young people coming up this day and age, they have more pressure on them than I think any generation prior. So I think people need to know that it's just okay to be them.
Awesome.
And that God didn't screw up when He made them the way that He made them. I think people need to know that. And they need to be free. They need to have freedom of speech. Our freedom of speech is being challenged right now because of political correctness. Political correctness, you want to talk about politics. The thing I hate most about politics is political correctness. Political correctness is a cancer. It is a disease in our culture because it seeks to stifle individuality, honestly. And
that kind of rolls into the second question of the Tough 12. But what in your opinion is the number one issue, facing America, facing humanity in general? So that may be your answer.
Well, political correctness is bad, but right now, at this point in time, it's hatred. Hatred, okay? I hate some of the stuff that I've seen lately.
But hatred's a problem, Jeff.
Hatred's a massive problem, dude.
So why would you hate some of the stuff? Hatred's a problem?
Thanks. There are some things that deserve to be hated, Ryan.
Okay,
and hatred is one of those things.
Interesting.
Hatred deserves to be hated, dude. Yeah. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. You got a road trip coming up. Think about that. Think about that for a while.
Sure. So hatred.
Hatred, dude, because hatred is one of the things that's most toxic in a culture. And I can't stand I love that you're doing this podcast, the way that you're doing this podcast, because it's just so open and honest. You don't have an agenda in this. Like, there's so much agenda in the media today. What do they peddle, dude? They peddle hate and fear. Hate and fear. I've been watching the news for, my entire life. And most of what you see is hate and fear. You know what I mean? Why? Because it gets ratings. And, there's so much that the media does to set us against one another, and it really doesn't do a whole lot to bring us together. I think that might be an oversimplified statement, but I like keeping things simple. And I believe that love is the answer for hatred. I believe most people want peace. I believe most people want to love each other. I believe most people are good, have a good heart. They want to love their fellow man. They want the best for their fellow man. And, they're trying to find their way, and they deserve to have the room to be who they are and find their way. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, seems to.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And there's just a lot of hate and fear.
So,
I've been having a lot of conversations with, the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Mm-hmm. I've been having a lot of conversations with, I grew up in Atlanta. I grew up in a mostly black neighborhood in Jonesboro.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid. I grew up in a mostly black neighborhood. And so I've had black friends my entire life. But what I'm realizing right now is I didn't have an understanding. There's a good side about what's happening now, because it's causing us to have conversations that we've never had before. Like I said, I've done so many sit down meetings with my black friends and Zoom calls and stuff like that to gain an understanding of stuff. I mean, they're just gushing. This is how it felt for so long. I felt this way, but I never felt the liberty to express it. And Danielle and my wife and I were just like, man, we want to know, because we love you guys. We've always supported. We've known you for years and years and years and years. Never knew you felt this way. So there's a lot of positivity that's coming out of this, but there's also, where there's positivity, there's also a lot of negativity that can come out of it too, like with the riots and everything. Nothing good comes of that. Martin Luther King wouldn't be proud of that, and none of my friends are proud of that. None of my friends are proud of that, because violence just breeds more violence. It breeds more tension. It breeds more hatred between. It causes more segregation. It causes more of a rift when you just insert violence. What we need, and I was on a roof the other night. It was the day that George Floyd, or it was the day after George Floyd was murdered. Okay. And whatever you think about George Floyd, I know he had a rap sheet. He wasn't a perfect person, but the dude, the way he was killed was 1,000% wrong. That was handled completely wrong.
Sure.
I don't know anybody that looks at that and go, "Oh, that was right." No, it was 1,000% wrong. The way that was handled. But then the way that the media has taken that, and the way that a lot of people have reacted to it, I think has caused more problems than it has good. And we've had a lot of conversations like, well, what do you do? How do we stop this? I don't know if you've had any conversations like that.
Yeah.
How do we stop hate? And my wife and I, we were kind of sitting there and we were talking with our friends about it. It's like, you can't stop hating everyone because you can't control people. So, and I was talking to a client of mine the other night, the day after George Floyd was murdered. And I was like, I just started crying. He was a black man. And I just said, man, I'm so sorry for a lot of the things that your culture and your people have had to endure. Things that I didn't really even realize that I've been in conversation with a lot of my black friends about. And I just wanted to extend to you some support, let you know, hey man, I think you're awesome. And, I support you, and I care about you and your family. And dude, we talked for over an hour.
Wow.
And he said, I've never had a white person say that to me before. And he's 41, I'm 44. And he said, not my friends. And he said, definitely not a stranger. And so we talked about that. But that's the answer, is seeking to understand and seeking to love not seeking to divide and seeking to hate.
Sure.
So
Sure.
those have been some really, really awesome conversations, like stimulating. We got on with some friends the other night, and we were like, we'll do this for about 30 minutes or an hour. 3.5 hours later, we said goodnight to one another.
Yeah.
Just because there was so much to discuss.
Next question here under politics, Jeff.
I'll try to be more succinct. And
this is great. Yeah. This is great. So, do politics matter, and why?
I hate politics for so many reasons, but like, you do have to have government. I mean, I believe in government 100%. I believe in small government. I do believe in government. I believe that I believe in our democracy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I believe in America. I believe in the dream of America. I believe that democracy done right works. And I believe that there is a movement that wants to end democracy, and I do not like that movement at all, because everybody in the world wants to come to America. Why? Why are people like flooding out of other countries and trying to come to America? Because it's awesome. Because of our democracy.
And there's got to be something there with that.
Yeah, there's so much hatred on America. Listen, if you don't like America and you're watching this podcast, just leave America. Just leave. There's plenty of other places you can go enjoy your life. Just leave America.
See, I disagree with you on that.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
You don't like America?
No, not that part. I agree with what you're saying there.
Uh-huh.
But the part about, somebody doesn't like America to leave, no, I'd encourage them to stay. Figure it out.
If they will figure it out, heck yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a point to that, right?
Yes.
There's got to be a bit of love for where you live and what you do and who you are and whatnot. Otherwise, I guess if you don't love that, I would understand why you'd hate it. I mean, it's just kind of self-evident there, right?
Yeah.
But what I would say is there's so many people flocking here, and there's not another country in the world, kind of like what you were talking about, where people are flocking to. So there's got to be something here. There's got to be something to America.
There's something very special.
Whether it is a democracy or not, I would encourage the person who hates America to go and figure out what is that thing that's special about America.
Yeah.
Because that's going to properly shape your perspective and reality about things, or more properly shape it,
Pretty much anybody can come here and find their way and do whatever they want and build the life that they want. And there's so many resources.
Yeah.
And our system is just set up to support their dream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's really unique and special about our country.
So, what role should government play then?
Serve, protect, legislate, educate, to a degree. They should, officials should be elected. I don't know if senators should have lifetime terms. I don't really understand that part. Maybe that should be edited. But government should serve and protect. That's what a government should do: serve and protect.
That was probably the easier section.
Yeah.
Of the Tough 12. We're going to move on to philosophy now.
Right on.
This might have some overlap based on your personal beliefs that you've talked about a bit with the last section, which is just personal questions and religion.
Yep.
But the first question under philosophy is, what is truth?
Whoa, what is truth?
Whoa. Whoa.
You just hit me with that one, Ryan.
I didn't tell you this would be easy.
That's right. You just hit me with that one, dude. What is truth? Dude, that's a good question. And there are a lot of people that are dumb enough to think they have the answer to that. I believe, and in my personal experience, I believe that God is truth.
Okay.
And what do I mean by that? I grew up, I believe in God. I believe in Yeshua, Jesus. I believe in God made flesh. I believe Jesus is the truest form of love that we can emulate that ever existed throughout the annals of time. For me, that's Jesus. To die for an entire creation that doesn't deserve it. When none of us are perfect. We're all flawed. And he came to give himself for us. He didn't have to. He was God, and then he was God incarnate. And then he came and gave himself for us to forgive all of our sins. You don't have to do anything to be forgiven. You're just forgiven. Why? Because God lowered himself because he loved you. And he sacrificed himself when you deserved to be sacrificed. He did it for you. So that now you can be unequivocally, his love is unchallenged. It's unbreakable for us. There's nothing we can do to lose his love. And that, to me, is truth. It's 100% acceptance by God of who you are and who he created you to be. And to me, that's truth. And that's the truth that we should embrace. That's the truth we should know about ourselves. That we're loved, that we're covered, that God's got our back. And that's how we should treat one another.
Right on.
And I really believe that if you look at all your fellow men and ladies through that filter of unconditional love, I believe that not only, the Bible says you'll go to heaven when you pass from this life, but I believe if you live that way, that you'll experience heaven on earth as well. And that, to me, is the truest truth that anybody could hope to find.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Pretty succinct answer there.
Yes, sir.
So what do you believe about people's ability to change then?
People have a tremendous ability to change themselves. The problem with our world is that we spend so much time trying to change other people.
Not introspective enough?
Yes. We're quick to judge. The media helps us out with that. Boy, we can take a scenario in a New York minute and formulate any kind of opinion we want to with no facts. Not knowing that person, not knowing anything about the surrounding circumstances. Just take a bite out of time and a little, clip of a video, and then turn that into all kinds of chaos. I think you have to seek to be understood. You have to seek to understand before you seek to be understood. If that makes sense.
So you think we're quick to do that because of a refusal to be introspective? Do you think the two are connected, I guess, is the question?
Yeah. I think it's hard to be introspective. I think there's some things about human nature that you don't have to teach a kid. You ever notice you don't have to teach a kid to lie?
That's true.
You have to teach a kid to tell the truth. When my wife and I have 6 kids, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I don't have a degree in child psychology or anything, but I've raised 6 babies.
It's kind of like having a degree in
It's
child
almost
psychology.
like, okay, so yeah, I was trying to be humble, but yeah, no.
I'll give that one to you. I don't have any kids. You know a heck of a lot more than I do about it.
I've learned a lot. You have to teach a kid to share most of the time. You have to teach a kid to tell the truth. You have to teach a kid, you have to learn to be introspective more than judge yourself. Since I've started trying to live more that way, you'll find this out. If you'll just judge yourself and work on you, you'll be happier, you'll have more peace, you'll make more money, you'll have a better relationship, your love life is going to get better. Everything will get better if you work on you. And forget about everybody else. You can't change them. But I do. I agree with your statement that I think a whole as a society, we are kind of programmed to not be as introspective as we need to be healthy emotionally and spiritually and socially. I agree with that 100%.
So next one, we're halfway through philosophy. You're doing great, Jeff. How would you explain consciousness?
whoa.
Whoa.
Consciousness?
Consciousness.
Wow.
I did send these to you before.
You did. I didn't read them. I'm sorry. I am a workaholic, and that's something I need to work on myself about. Consciousness, like we're conscious right now, driving down the road.
How do you know?
Having some great cigars. We're perceiving to be conscious. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're actually plugged into a matrix somewhere, like Keanu Reeves.
I was going to say that was a movie once,
You
right?
know, yeah. Maybe we're in a jelly sack, and we're not really riding in a car, and we got our brains plugged into a super intelligence alien mainframe.
There you go. There you go.
But as far as I can tell, we're driving down the road, enjoying some good Perdomo cigars and one another's company. And this is the consciousness that God has placed me in at the moment. There are other levels of consciousness, I believe. There's spiritual consciousness. There's dream states that you can enter into and see things. I believe in prophecy. I believe in seeing into the supernatural. I have seen into the supernatural as a kid. Not really as an adult, but as a kid. No, I take that back. I have dealt with the supernatural as an adult, and it was weird. I'll tell you a little bit about it. As a kid, I saw angels. I saw what I would perceive to be angels, what the Bible describes as angelic beings. I saw demonic beings, what I would describe as demonic beings. They were ugly. They brought fear when I saw them. The angelic beings brought peace when I saw them when I was a kid. And so I believe there's a spiritual consciousness. I believe that I don't know why sometimes you can peer into that realm, or why, in my belief system, that God opens the door for you to be able to see into that. That was kind of proof to me, as it were,
That there's something else.
that there's something else
Yeah.
besides us. That there are different levels of consciousness. And, you know, I think you're closed-minded, and you haven't experienced enough of the human experience and what it means to be a multi-level being if you haven't opened yourself up to some of that stuff and, you know, experienced some of it. It's out there.
Right on.
And I don't understand. I don't claim to have a solid understanding of any of that, but I know it's real. So consciousness, that's kind of my definition of consciousness. I believe there's consciousness here. I believe there's an afterlife. I believe when we cease to be here, we're going to be somewhere else. And I have a lot of friends. My neighbor's Bengali, and he's an Indian. They have 330 million gods.
Right.
They just pile Jesus right in there, man. They're like, oh, throw Christmas at us. We got you. Let's have Diwali. Let's have some Christmas. Let's have some of all that. Because they have 330 million gods. So we talk a lot about religion and consciousness and karma and all kinds of different stuff. And it's pretty fascinating.
What exactly makes you then? It's the last one on philosophy.
God. The fingerprint of God. The DNA that He breathed into me when I was created. The Bible says that He formed each of us in our mother's womb. He did that. And He knew throughout the annals of time, because He's God and His consciousness is immensely bigger than ours. He knew that I needed to be right where I'm at. He knew I would be here tonight with you. I believe this. And He planted me on this earth with purpose for a reason. And every person sucking wind today has a purpose for being conscious here and being alive now. Everybody has purpose. And our goal in life is to, and it's a journey, to discover that purpose. And it's layers. It's not like you ever arrive. You never arrive. You reach another layer, and then it's time to go to the next layer. I give this analogy that humans are like onions. You know, it's like God can peel off one layer, and then it's like, oh, well, there's a layer. You reckon when you peel an onion, everybody in the room knows that there's an onion being peeled. there's a new layer. Everybody sees it. But then over time, it kind of hardens and, the scent goes away. It's not as noticeable until you peel back that next layer. Then it's super noticeable again. And onions have layers, so do people. So, yeah, there you go.
All right, last section here, Jeff. We've talked about this quite a bit, but what do you believe about God?
God is love. Not our idea of love. Not a human idea of love. God defines love. Like I've had people say, well, love is God. Yeah, but we don't define love. People ask me, they say, what is love then? If God is love, what is love? 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love keeps no records of wrong. Love doesn't seek its own way. It's not envious. It's not strifeful. It doesn't boast. It doesn't seek its own way. God gave us the definition of love in the Word, specifically the Bible, in 1 Corinthians 13. If you don't read any other chapter of Scripture in the entire Bible, and you master 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 8, 4 verses. If you can master 4 verses, then you will have discovered the essence of God, and you will have embodied the essence of God in your lifetime. If you can just successfully, daily, live out those 4 verses. That's what I believe.
Those are good 4 verses.
Yes, sir.
What do you think happens after death?
Well, I don't know if there's a bright light. I've heard a lot of people, I saw a bright light. I don't know if there's a bright light, but I believe that we go to what is called heaven, and that we pass from this consciousness into another consciousness that is an eternal consciousness. I don't know if there's a rebirth somewhere else. Me and my neighbor Shoebunker, we've talked about this before, and I've talked to this about with other people of the Indian faith because they believe in reincarnation. And essentially, I believe we leave these bodies and the Bible teaches that we get an eternal heavenly consciousness and body being, and that we enter into the presence of God. In the South, we call it going home. They went to heaven. They're at the pearly gates, and they finally made it home. They're in the arms of Jesus. And I believe there's probably an element of truth to all that. I don't think any of us know on this side exactly what that looks like. There's a lot of speculation. I don't speculate a lot about it, but I do believe that when we leave this life, the Bible says, the Apostle Paul said, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And so whatever present with the Lord means, I believe we're just with God. We're in a place of perfect peace, harmony, oneness, perfect love. There's no fear. There's no pain. There's no doubt. There's just the presence of God, and there's complete wholeness. That's what I believe comes after death.
Good deal. What gives life its meaning then?
What gives life its meaning?
Yep.
Finding your purpose that God gave you. And a lot of people feel lost. I talk to a lot of young people. Like when I was growing up, people would be like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to play for the Atlanta Braves. Now that changes and it morphs with time. What do you want to be when you grow up? And you have to allow that process to take place. But the purpose of life is discovering who God created you to be, and you do that by recognizing your talents and then being courageous enough to be you. That's the purpose of life. Who are you? Why did God put you here? And then you go and you discover that. You spend life becoming who God created you to be. And by that sounds very nebulous. You have a passion. Dig down there. I talk to kids all the time now, and they're like, I don't know what I want to be. I want to play video games and live in my mom's basement until I'm 35 and have no life at all. That's a sad existence, because inside of that person in their mom's basement playing video games is a purpose. And your purpose is not for you. All right? It's not for you. You can't experience life to the fullest. You can't be happy. You can't be satisfied until your life is not about you. Because all the gifts that God gave you, or whoever you believe in, the gifts that you possess were given to you for the benefit of mankind and for posterity. They were not bestowed on you to be consumed by you and make you fat and happy. They were given to you for the betterment of humankind and for posterity to come. And that's the meaning of life.
Awesome. Last question here, Jeff. You made it through the tough 12. We've kind of talked about this a little bit already too, but what is love?
1 Corinthians 13. There's no better definition for love than that. All the people out there trying to fix their marriages, or you're trying to get this girl to like you, or you're trying to get this guy to like you. If you will 1 Corinthians 13 that person, everything else will fall into place. If you will apply 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8 to every relationship in your life, your mom, your dad. There's this thing where it's popular to hate your parents now. I don't know what that bullcrap's all about. But like hating your origin is hating yourself. Hating your parents, God teaches us to honor our parents. I honor my parents. Did I agree with everything my parents said? No. What kid does that? Not any in the history of mankind.
Unless all the stories about Jesus were true.
Yes, right. Well, he was a little out there too, you know what I mean? He disappeared. He disappeared for 3 days. Parents didn't even know where he was when he was 13. Mom was freaking out, and he was in the temple, discussing the scriptures with all the guys who are in their 80s who've been studying this their whole lives. And they come in and they're like freaking out, and they want to probably beat the snot out of him. And he just looks at him and he goes, well, it's kind of with teenage sarcasm. Didn't you think I'd be in my father's house? You know what I mean? So
it's probably a good thing there weren't social workers back then, right?
Yeah.
Mary and Joseph would have never got Jesus back.
They would have never got Jesus back. That's the truth. So, what is love? That's love. Honor one another. Care for one another. Care about one another. Care what each other thinks. Put the other person before yourself. Seek to understand instead of being understood. 1 Corinthians 13, those folks. If you will 1 Corinthians 13 to everybody. It's called the love chapter, okay? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love keeps no record of wrong. So what I do is when I'm trying to love somebody that I really dislike a lot, when I'm trying to love somebody I dislike a lot, I read that scripture and I go, okay, I take out the word love because I want to embody love in my life, and I put my name in there. Jeff is patient. Jeff is kind. Jeff keeps no record of wrongs. Jeff doesn't seek his own way. And I put my name where it says love, where it says love does this, love does that. I put my name in there. And it helps to remind me who I need to be for the benefit of everybody around me and for my own personal peace and enjoyment of life and my relationships, cultivation of my relationships. And I don't live that out a lot of times any more than anybody else in this planet does, but that's my pursuit. I'm pursuing that. And I believe if everybody pursues that, that's how we get the world that we want.
Well, awesome, Jeff. That's it. You made it through the tough 12.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, that's all we've got for this show. Where again can people find out more about you?
Yeah, find out more about what we do with Emerge, with our work with the homeless, the addicted, and be a part. Listen, the way that we're growing this community and this foundation is, we have a goal over the next 12 months to get 10,000 people to give $10 a month. Anybody can afford $10. Anybody can. Just about anybody. Okay, we have some college kids that are giving $5 a month. But that's a trip to Starbucks. If you will invest a cup of coffee a month, you will help us turn a family's life around so that mom or dad can go get the help and healing they need, get free of addiction, and their family can be whole again. So if you like what you've heard tonight, if you love giving back and you want a worthy cause to support, check out some of the stories on our website, emergeonline.net. It's emergeonline.net. Check out some of the stories on there. And we're just a bunch of bands, a bunch of artists. Our slogan is making music that makes a difference.
It's pretty cool.
And so that's what we do. We go and do shows and we raise money and awareness for drug and alcohol addiction. So I hope you like what you heard. Check us out at emergeonline.net. Big donate button at the top. Any amount helps. If you want to give $1 a month, listen, it doesn't matter. We have people giving $5 a month. We have people giving $1,000 a month, okay? Every little bit helps. The fact is that in order to make this a better world, we all have to do something. And addiction, there's 40 million people addicted in the United States alone. There's only 330 million people in the United States, so addiction touches everybody on some level. Over 40% of violent crime is committed by somebody who's abusing drugs or alcohol. Over 40%. You want to cut the crime rate? Let's get these people some healing. Let's get them some help. So if you want to become a part of our movement, emergeonline.net, hit the donate button, do your part, give something to help us battle addiction and help us save lives.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching this, we'll have a link to the website in the descriptions and on the Facebook posts and that type of thing. So,
and if you're in the Atlanta area and you want a roof and you want some help with the insurance process, we get insurance. We are certified licensed insurance adjusters. We're a public adjusting firm, and we can help you not just with your roof, but we can help you with any kind of damage claim that you have. ValorRoofing.net and PinpointAdjusters.com. That's what we do for a living. We do that for a living, and we do Emerge to give back.
Right on. Well, thanks, Jeff. Really appreciated the conversation. It was awesome.
Thanks for having us on, man.
Absolutely. Next week on Contentious Talks.
My dad still is my hero. He was a very disciplined man, a very kind man. There's that like military father stereotype of like that overbearing, and my dad was not like that. He was not like the Great Santini or any of those military movies of that overbearing Marine dad. I had a job and I got fired from a job. We were about to close on a house, despite having all these issues, and I got fired from my job like a week, like probably less than a week before we were going to close on the house, and I couldn't find another one. It was a while before I found another one, and she wanted me to get just go get a job, and I kind of was like more like being like, I'm in the tennis industry, I need to keep finding a tennis job, and I found a couple opportunities out of state, and she said she was willing to move with me, but then when I finally took one of those opportunities, she didn't seem so hot on it, and at some point, like 5-6 weeks into this new job in North Carolina, she said, she called me and said that she's done, she didn't want to do it anymore. So after being unemployed for 4 months, I quit a job that I'd had for 6 weeks to come back and try and fight for my marriage. But I think at that point she was done. It hurt. When I get kicked out of the Marine Corps, it hurt. Like, I mean, other than my divorce, I don't think there's anything that really hurt more. Just like something that you wanted your whole life that you just got blatantly rejected from. And at some point, 4 or 5 years after I got sent home, I had kind of come to the realization that this wasn't going to happen again.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to this week's episode of Contentious Talks. Did you like the episode? If so, please consider sharing this podcast with your friends and family. To get notified about new episodes, be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to connect more, like Contentious Talks on Facebook. To support Contentious Talks and for more content, consider joining the Contentious Collective for as little as $1 a month. To do so, visit contentioustalks.com today. Contentious Talks is produced, hosted, filmed, and edited by Ryan Malinoski. Contentious Talks, copyright 2020, all rights reserved.